Looking at.
If I may, just briefly make an announcement. I just want to make it aware. First, we appreciate the notice of the meeting. We had already scheduled a meeting with the Water Alliance for this time, and that is why we can't be present for this meeting. We're trying to get some help fixing the situation, and so I'm going to come in here. In fact, we might have to leave because it's a lot of people, and it might be too loud in that room. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is an ad hoc committee of the City Council, and we will be looking at disaster preparedness and responses. It is imperative that we first understand the nature of the things that can happen within our city, and that we be prepared for it. To that end, during today's meeting, we'll start out by some discussion on the water crisis. And then, for the sake of our visitors, we want them to have an opportunity to speak first. And then we shall proceed with some administrative business for this committee setup. This, again, is an ad hoc. It's not, we will be working towards coming up with the scope, the framework, the full team, documents that we will need, etc. So, having said that, let's get started here. Okay. Look around at my council colleagues, and the issue of the day is water disaster and response, our water quality. That is ensuring that our public have access to clean drinking water. Councilman Banks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for calling this meeting. I think this is timely, and want to thank the Office of the City Attorney for being here, and also want to thank the wonderful people that are in the room that make sure we have good places to eat. I just want to dive straight in and just say one of the things today has been a very meaningful day, because I think we've learned the importance of making sure that not only is there transparency, but that we force and make sure that communications are improved, because when people don't have the opportunity and time to prepare, all the way from our schools, all the way to our restaurant and business community, then we're doing them a disservice and an injustice. I also want to put this into the conversation. I think that as we go into budget season, I think it's been maybe 2012-13 since this city has had an emergency response coordinator. And I think that we need to strongly look at making sure that that there's some type of emergency response coordinator or team to help make sure that the communication is done, and to help make sure that we are as close as we can be to be prepared. Because at the end of the day, we're all losing when we're reacting, and I think we need to have be as much preventive in nature. So those are the two things. How do we improve our communications from my end, and then also the real discussion of either emergency response coordinator or emergency response team.
Councilwoman Lee.
I just want to state for the record and for our constituents listening, when the state issued the mandated boil water notice, the council was not privy to the information. We unfortunately found out through social media when we had several business owners reach out to us, and we started doing our own investigating, and then started texting each other and started letting each other be aware of the situation so that we could alert our constituents as well as our businesses in our ward. This is so important. Transparency is so important in this line of work, because we're the first line to the constituents. And we have so many businesses operating that need water. We have constituents who have children, seniors. This is a fundamental right to have drinking water available. And then we have businesses who are trying to stay afloat and not leave Jackson. And we have new businesses trying to come into Jackson who are investing millions of dollars. So the first thing that, and I echo my colleague, we definitely need transparency so that we can be transparent with our constituents and make sure that they have access to drinking water and are aware when they have boil water alerts.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Foote?
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. I'd like to just say a few words about the restaurant business, because we have a number of restaurateurs who have been kind enough to come forward today to talk about this issue. Restaurants is something we enjoy, and most of us enjoy quite a bit. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are not very obvious that actually, create great value add to the community and to the individuals who partake in those restaurants. And oftentimes, even the serious, foodies don't fully appreciate the work that goes in behind the scenes, whether it's developing all the recipes, developing the ambiance that goes into setting up a restaurant, the supply chains that bring all the foods that are required to create all the different meals they serve, and then the unknown. They don't know how many people are going to show up and eat that night or that afternoon or that morning. But they've got to have all the different options on their menu to have them ready. So there's a lot of risk that it takes to run a restaurant. And one of the most vital things that they have to have is water, is clean water. And that's something that everybody, I think, pretty much, not right now, but in the past, has taken for granted that water, when you turn the spigot, it'll be good water, it'll be good water pressure, and it'll be available. And it can just take that one element to throw a restaurant completely out of sorts in trying to meet the needs of their clients. And once the word gets out, it can actually drive some of the potential clients to other areas of the city where they may decide to eat up in Madison or Richland or Brandon or someplace else just because of the uncertainty of the water situation in Jackson. So it's absolutely vital for us to keep this really important industry in Jackson, which brings a lot of people and adds value to the citizens' lives. It's critical that we get the water system straightened out for this important industry so they can stay strong and viable in the city of Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Foote. And again, we're going to hear from some of the folks in it. I'm sorry, Councilwoman.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Hartley, and welcome to everybody who took the time out of their very busy schedules. It's getting close to 5 o'clock to be here. But I want to just echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I mean, we find ourselves in an incredibly difficult and feels like a very dangerous time, and not since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution have cities been able to thrive without safe and reliable water and sewer systems. And we are committed to working alongside the administration, to doing whatever we can to reach a point where you can go to work or to school or get up in the morning and brush your teeth without the concern of being made sick. And so I appreciate Mr. Hartley convening this meeting. I would like to add to the list of possible goals for this committee is that I don't know of a crisis communication plan for this city. And I think that has become critically important and evident that we don't really have that in place. Now, I know we're not the administration and we have limited powers, but certainly as a council, we can work together to develop a communication system so that when we do hear about something, we know what buttons to push and how. So I just want to add that, Mr. Chairman.
Say that one more time. The idea of it? Yeah, so...
Councilman Banks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hartley. The idea of council communications via website, a lot of times we do a lot of things that are extremely important, budget committee meetings, but also being able to inform the people of what's going on. And just to speak to the importance of communication, I think, especially when we talk about this restaurant community, they're resilient in the fact that if you let them know, they can handle it. You know, if we remember February 2 years ago, when the ice storm came, most of them were in a bad place anyway because of COVID. And in a moment's notice, Dan called from D.C., from World Central Kitchen, and these guys were able to prepare and put food together. Mr. O'Neill, I mean, you were sending people to Forest Hill every day, then sending people to Callaway every day. But they just needed somebody to communicate and say, this is where we are, this is what we need, and so the lack of communication, I think, is unfair. And Councilwoman Lindsay, this crisis communication plan, however we come up with it, whatever we have to do, I think it's a necessary and a must. Even if we have to look at allocating the funding necessary in our budget to make sure we do, even if we have to get third party.
Yes.
You know, it's just a must.
Okay, so that's, again, will be one of the goals of this ad hoc committee. In addition, I requested from the administration, and hopefully by the next meeting we will have, but I requested a copy of the disaster preparedness plan for the city of Jackson. We need to take a look at that. If it doesn't include things like water, safe drinking water, we need to conclude that because it's a health hazard to our people. It's a detriment to our businesses, and we have to come up with better plans. We have to. So part of the scope of this committee is to identify disasters and threats, public safety threats to our people, look at ways of a prevention and a preparedness, look at the city's response, and it's been mentioned several times before, public information, community involvement, and transparency need to be at the core of everything we do here. And so this committee, as your chair, I pledge to give you all the information, make available all the information possible to the public so we can prepare ourselves. Also, another area I'd like for us to also discuss is the reporting agencies and other resources. You know, we need to work in concert with Hinds County Emergency Management, Mississippi Emergency Management Association. We need to make sure our fire department and police department are on board. Mississippi Department of Health. There's a lot of other agencies that we should be working together to make sure that we provide the best possible service to our people. Councilwoman Lindsay, did you have a comment?
Yes, I want to respectfully request of you, Mr. Chairman, that because we have these very busy restaurateurs here,
Yes.
if we could,
Yes,
you know where I'm headed.
Yes, that was my.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to open that up. We have two major groups, and we've already talked a little bit about it. Our citizens that are impacted, but our businesses, they are impacted as well. So we want to give them an opportunity to come up, talk about some of the challenges that they are faced with, and if they have ideas, suggestions, or things that they want this committee to look into, please let us know. And I'll just start. Councilman Foote, did you want to introduce anyone?
I'll let Mr. Jeff Good is in charge of, I think, the head of the Restaurant Association. Is that correct? No, today. We'll start with Jeff Good, and he can let him, he kind of put this gathering together.
Pleasure to be here today, and thank you, all of you, for what you're doing. We have 4 members of our community that would love to speak today and just answer any questions. Myself, Bravo, Broad Street, Salamukis. I'm Jeff Good. My partner Dan and I, almost 30 years now in the city of Jackson. Bravo, Broad Street, Salamukis. Stephen O'Neill with Appaloosa and Manship. We have Chef Pierre here with the Iron Horse Grill, and then Johnny Tier is on his way with Johnny T's. He's just running a little late. He just texted me, so he should walk in any moment. And each of us, we have just finished a meeting of 30 restaurateurs this afternoon that met to talk about this very issue, about how this is impacting us. And I think each of us could tell stories in our individual restaurants about the multitudes of trauma that we go through. So number one is the sheer stress of not knowing when this is coming and how things are happening. And this latest boil water notice came out at 7:30 from the Department of Health on Friday, and none of us knew about it. We started having our customers ask about it, and there was nothing on any of the city websites, and as a matter of fact, was not for another 30 hours, I believe. And right now, if you go to the website and the Facebook page, and the Facebook page being a major part of how we communicate. As a matter of fact, I think your earlier meeting is the top post right now. It's 3 days ago that there's the last post about the boil water notice. There are 2 posts in here about water distribution locations, but there's not a daily, and I have personally interfaced with the administration and talked about the need to use the Facebook media as a way to every day just say, we're not testing yet. Those of us in the industry, we understand how this works. We understand that when we're under boil water, that there has to, whatever the underlying issue is, whether it's a pressure issue or in this case turbidity, whatever the problem is, once the problem's solved, then there has to be 3 days of consecutive positive testing that everything's okay before it's released. And we also understand in a citywide situation that it may turn out that one part of the city still isn't lifted when another part is lifted. So we all understand the game. We just need to understand through communication, there is a boil water notice. We don't know when it's going to end. And that happens every day. And then we're still waiting. We haven't started testing yet. And then the day that it comes up and says, we've started testing today, all of us can then make plans for what that means, knowing that 90% of the time, in 3 days, we're going to lift it. Understanding it's highly possible that it might not be lifted. Now, why is this important? In our restaurants, and I think that one of the expert witness, if we can give as restaurateurs, is what this costs to us. At my restaurants, in my world, Bravo Italian Restaurant, Broad Street Baking Company, Salamucci's New York Pizza and Ice Cream Joint, 3 restaurants that are, 2 of them are open 6 days a week, Broad Street's open 7 days a week. It costs us between $200 and $500 per day per restaurant to purchase water, ice, and canned soft drinks. You cannot make coffee using the water from the system. Filters do not work. There's a misconception that filters filter things out. You cannot use that. So we have to we keep a storeroom where we keep our pour-over Mr. Coffees. If you go to Broad Street today, you'll see behind the line an entire array of Mr. Coffee machines. And we're constantly making coffee with bottled water, and we're putting it out. We are not able to use our commercial machines. We can't use our espresso machine. Espresso machines don't boil water. So that's offline. That's a high premium dollar. We can't provide it. God knows what a Starbucks does. I don't know. So the ice, we can't use the ice from our ice machine. We have to purchase ice. We have to find this ice. So the other part is we have no employees. There's a wide-known situation that in our industry, as in many, we're very challenged for the number of employees we need to drive our business. We don't have the ability to go to the store and wait in line and buy ice, soft drinks, and water. So we call our vendors and have this delivered. And that's why communication is so important, is if we know that we're under a boil water and we know that no testing has started, I know that my managers can now order a week's worth of product knowing that we're not going to have too much. Because the other part is when we order it, we can't send it back. And once we're off the boil water, the ice literally melts. And then, we've wasted all this money on ice. And the water jugs, we buy the 5 gallons, we buy the 1 gallons, we buy the individuals for folks. We have all this new product and no place to put it. Those are the stressors a lot of us feel. The other part is in the kitchens. The guys have to be double careful about making sure that their process is for baking. If you're baking, you have to use clean water. You can't just pour tap and say it's going to get hot in the oven. There's no guarantee that the baked product is going to do what needs to be done, so we use fresh water. It's incredibly costly, incredibly difficult. And I can't speak to the rest of my brothers in the room right now, but I live here, so I'm both, Councilman Hartley, I'm both. I'm both the citizen and the person. And my concern at this point is what I have seen, and I'm going to close on this, is the following. In the last 16 months, we've had 5 citywide incidents. I've been in this business for almost 30 years. I've lived here for 41 years. I remember when the first boil water happened, we were 3 years into Bravo, and all the TV stations came out because it was so wild that we had this boil water, and all the customers were being interviewed and said, do you feel safe being here? And you see us in the background pouring bottled water, and they say, yes, we trust this restaurant. Hell, that was 25 years ago. We've had so few localized boil water. We're going to have those forever. The pipes are going to break. You're going to have a localized thing. This systemic thing is scary. There's the freeze. And people like Stephen O'Neill and John and Pierre did amazing things in the community. I just went back and licked my wounds trying to keep our restaurants going, because Broad Street was closed for 21 days. Salamukis in Fondren was closed for 21 days. Bravo was closed for 6 days. Why 6 days? Because we're on the east side of the interstate. When they started to repressurize, we got water first. But as we opened each of those, we then had to open up under boil water notice. And that boil water notice for Bravo went on forever, because the entire time while the system was being repressurized, we were under that. I have insurance. I'm a big enough company. I've been through this rodeo enough. I've negotiated property and casualty insurance and I have enough buying power that when the power goes out, a tornado hits, or the water goes down, the clock starts for me getting reimbursed by my insurance company. A lot of my brothers and sisters don't have that. I can put a number to this for you. I looked it up today. Broad Street Baking Company, in February of 2021, during its 21-day close, the negotiated settlement with the insurance company was $93,000. I lost $93,000 because the water system was off for 21 days. So if you want to now take that and divide it by 21, that pretty much tells you what Broad Street loses when water is off for a day. Now, if we're open under boil water, we're losing the $200 to $500 we're spending, but we do have a softening, and I think some of these gentlemen will speak to the softening of business, that less people come. In our meeting, David Kahn, who is one of the owners of Char and Amerigo and Saltine, he was there talking about Char and Saltine and the struggles we have in the city, and then he says, Amerigo and Sombra, that they own in Madison, every time there's a boil water notice in Jackson, they get an influx in business, and they get more bar business. This is realities. And so, again, not pointing fingers as to who, but the point is we had the 21 days, then we had the fire incident when the panel went down and we had no water. Then that was in the late spring. Then the late summer, early fall, we had the misdosing of the chemicals, which was not a pressure issue, but it was a do not drink the water, we must flush the system, do not drink the water, and we got through that. Then we had this incident that happened in late June and July, and now we're in this one here. So the speed at which these things are occurring and the fact that none of us really understand how bad things are at the plant is of great concern to all of us as citizens and as business people. And to answer Councilman Lee's issue about attracting and keeping, it's a real issue. And, I know your family's in the business, and when it comes time for lease renewals and it comes time for people to look at what they're doing, it is a hard sale if you don't have that basic piece. So I think that from an expert testimony standpoint is this. This is the damages that are occurring. We are probably, the hospitals used to be the most impacted, but they've come up with their own solutions. We don't have that ability. We also don't have the ability to come up with magic filters that will take care of this. So we are at the mercy of what comes out of the tap. We are wanting to help push the subject to whatever level it needs to go. City, county, state, federal. There are 172,000 people right now that are living in risk. There are a lot of people in the city that do not know what's going on. And I'm sure if you go to a fast food place in some parts of town, they're going to hand you a fountain drink right now. And that's our concern. So I hopefully set this up. We have John Tier from Johnny T's that maybe I can pass to you, and then maybe to Stephen, and then to Pierre. Is that fair? All right. May I?
Yeah, we would love to hear from everyone. And just a moment, I'd like to just thank Jeff. Jeff and I, over the years, have had several conversations, and every time I just applaud him for sticking in.
We love what we do.
I know.
All of us love what we do. We love this damn city.
Yes, sir.
Always.
Yes. And so, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, I can't echo what my colleague Jeff said enough.
Your name again, sir?
Stephen O'Neill, the Manship Wood-Fired Kitchen, and Appalachian Jackson in Highland Village. I can't echo enough what Jeff said about the cost and the stress. I mean, we're fortunate that we have a piece of equipment that I argued with my chef about 10 years ago. I said, I've never worked in a kitchen with one of these. He said, I've never worked in a kitchen without one. But what it is, it's called a tilt skillet, and we can boil 30 gallons of water at a time. Not every restaurant has that. Again, we're still buying bottled product. We're doing other things. But we have this nice piece of equipment that boils 30 gallons that we can redistribute in-house and help make tea, make coffee, do things like that. I'm also a resident and a business owner. I would add to that, you know, anecdotally, if we were losing businesses, if you were to lose each of my businesses generates roughly $30,000 a month in sales tax revenue that I pay to the state. I know y'all don't get all of that, but I know a piece of that component. So you take $30,000 a month times 2 times 12, it's a pretty decent little chunk of change. And again, we're nearing lease terms. I'm not going to say that there's not people from outlier counties that want our businesses that are super aggressive, but I'm a hardcore Jacksonian. I want to stay. I want to stay and fight alongside everybody, but it gets hard. And is this, you know, is the water the straw that breaks the camel's back? Or is it one of our other many issues that we face within this city and administration and things like that? It's super tough to defend to folks from the outside as well. I mean, yeah, I would encourage y'all to explore all options and think outside the box. I mentioned it at the Restaurant Association meeting that I would like to see the council and possibly the administration reach out to Rankin County and establish an MOU with them. I know that they pulled their contract with our water department, which is part of what put us in the position that we are today. I know a lot about the history of our water situations and our water crises because I've been fortunate that my father has stood at this podium, has worked with the council, has worked with numerous administrations in the city before his retirement to try to help bring people together and make things stay. And I want to, you know, continue to do that in his stead. So again, if there's a way, is it worth saving what we have, or is it better to go elsewhere and get it? Like Jeff said, the localized outages, the breakage in the pipes under the roads, we know there's so many infrastructure things going on within the city. Do we need to be able to focus on those, or, you know, is this our primary concern? Again, there's other outlets, there's other water treatments. How do we get their water to our water if that's the easiest, safest route to get our city the fastest, safe, livable service? I'll close with that.
Thank you, sir. Certainly appreciate those comments. Okay. Who's next? Please. Don't be shy. We're looking for answers here, okay?
I don't have much to say, but I do want to say I'm John T. here with Johnny T's Bistro and Blues. Every time there's a water outage, it costs us a fortune, anywhere from $300 to $500 a day, canned drinks, ice, even put strain on staff, just making sure that we keep everyone healthy. So it's a challenge, but you know I'm here for the solution. So whatever can be done, I want to be a part of that. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Come on up.
Good evening, Council. I'm Pierre Pryor with the Iron Horse Grill, the executive chef. What everybody's been saying all day is true. You know, a lot of money being spent for Coke, water, ice, and the extra labor to go out and get those things and bring them to your restaurant or your business. The solution we got to find, I don't know what it is, but we need to get together and find one. Being that, you know, the water is an important thing. Our business, the restaurant business, we got to thrive on it. We've got a lot of people employed. A lot of restaurants, I mean, from ours to fast food, McDonald's, Rallies, all of us. And all the people we employ, we need that water supply so we can do our jobs every day and have our livelihood every day. So I'm involved. Thank y'all.
So can you tell, just tell about some of your operations during a water shutdown.
We're with the Iron Horse, man. We're a large restaurant. We got 3 levels there. So I got 40 employees on the floor every day. You know, that's lunch or dinner. And so that water shortage comes in, you know, you're hauling water upstairs, you're hauling ice upstairs, you're hauling canned drinks, you know, you got employees, they're tired, you know, they're working too hard. You know, all these things go on behind the scenes. In the kitchen, you're boiling water just to make, we got 15 sauces I make, and we're a scratch kitchen. And it can be very tedious at times when we have that water and it's not already to use. So it's an extra workload for my staff. But we get it done. And we come out and we put a good product on the table and see you guys come in and smile every day. We're happy to do it. So get us rolling. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Who's next? Pat. Want to hear from everyone.
Councilwomen, councilmen, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Pat Fontaine. I'm Executive Director of the Mississippi Hospitality and Restaurant Association. You've heard from 4 of our members about the impact that water shortage has on their operations, and Councilman Foote referred to it, but they're dealing still with the lingering effects of COVID. Labor shortages, increase in labor cost, also increase in food cost, and availability of products. So outside of this issue, that they've been dealing with so many challenges, and the impact that it's had is on the bottom line profit. And the National Restaurant Association indicated probably a month ago that profit margins nationwide have decreased by almost 75%. Now, margins in our industry are extremely thin. The full-service restaurant not serving alcohol averages between 4 and 5% profit. So with the 75% decrease in profit, that's putting the margin at between 1 and 2%. And you cannot live on that. The average restaurant in Mississippi, full service, not serving alcohol, averages $870,000 in sales a year. So when you do the math, at a 1.5% profit margin, that's $13,500. You cannot live on that. And so as margins decrease, many restaurants do not have the resources to withstand this. And so, it's a matter of time before we start to see doors close. And we don't want to see that. So all efforts to remedy this situation are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Attorney Martin?
Since nobody else is here from the administration who's been in all these meetings with the Department of Health, I will offer some brief comments. What I heard earlier from the council, I think, is mainly about communication, and I believe that I hear you. What I will say in terms of communication is, from a legal department's perspective, many times these communications, before they're issued from the city, they go through a long process. What I would like to do, if possible, with our restaurateurs is maybe try to come up with a process. You know, we have some communities that we speak with directly outside of public releases. And I think if we could, because the hard part with these boil water notices is we literally, whenever there's a boil water notice in place, we meet daily, sometimes more than once in a day, to discuss the status of the boil water notice, our communications with the Department of Health, where we are, where they are. And I will be honest with you that there are many times that we are not in agreement. Whether that is a conversation about turbidity, whether it's a conversation about water pressure. There are many times when we are, from a legal perspective, going back and forth with the Department of Health about what their, because these things are technical. They're highly technical. We have our experts. They have their experts. And so there are many times when we're going back and forth in a 24-hour period where we might get them to change their mind. We might not get them to change their mind. And even when it comes to the water sampling, one of the conversations we're currently having about water sampling is where to take the sample from. And so it becomes very highly technical. But what I would like to offer is maybe a way, and I don't know if y'all have a listserv or what you have that we might be able to utilize that would allow us to have a direct communication with you so that at least we can say to you, look, this is where we are, this is where we think we're headed. It is hard when it comes to communicating with the public to say something and then pull it back. What I heard Jeff Good say is that they understand in the restaurant industry that when we say, look, we're taking samples, this might be done by, earlier we said it might be done by Friday. It is hard when you do public announcements to pull something back. It's a lot easier when we're speaking to a smaller community to say, look, this is where we are, this is where we think we're going. But if that doesn't happen, it'd be a lot easier for us to pull that back from you than it would be for us to pull that back from the general public.
So I'm sorry, if you can wrap it up. So what is your message to the restaurant folks?
if they have a listserv that we could communicate directly with, I would be happy to get that information from them, and we can make sure that that line of, because we have other communities that we communicate with in that way. And so if that's a possibility, that might be a quick solution to just a communication issue.
Yeah, we want to explore all options. This is important that we respond to their needs, and we need to be as transparent as possible. You guys need to know information as soon as we know it. The city council need to know information as soon as the city gets it. We don't need to be held outside the loop. We have these regulatory agencies. They are there for a reason. They help protect us, and we need to listen to them. If we have experts, then the experts need to be doing their job in preventing a lot of this. What I'm saying is this. I want to listen to the experts on the state level, on the federal level that we're paying. And their word means a lot in my mind. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Attorney Martin. Councilwoman Lee.
Attorney Martin, I heard you say that y'all talk every day when there's a boil water notice, but if the council does not have this information and we have to answer to our constituents, before you would reach out to the listserv of restaurateurs and business community, we need to be the first to know what is going on. And second, I only see a listserv being beneficial if it includes every business that serves food or water or beverages throughout the whole city, even a McDonald's, a Burger King, even a Big Apple Inn, who is not a big business like a restaurant that serves 40 people. I want to make sure that everyone has access to this information because they all have staffing, supply, all of those same issues across the board.
Councilman Banks.
Yeah, Attorney Martin, and I appreciate you thinking outside of the box and offering a solution as far as communication. But as we deal with this, I have to stress what Councilwoman Lee just shared. It's the frustration of us not knowing at all. We deal with restaurants, but in Ward 6, when water goes out, there's a boil water notice. I get a call from the principal of Forest Hill, the principal of Wingfield, which is just as important. And then you got cafeterias in those schools. And so now you got principals at the last minute trying to find out. And when they're calling me, I'm saying, I don't know. Nobody said anything. And so, this morning some of us were being briefed from Mississippi Association of Educators about their frustration of not knowing. So, yes, the restaurant community, and when Mr. Good, I appreciate you because your Facebook post to me just wasn't just speaking to the restaurant community. It's speaking about how this impacts everybody. And so, as far as the council, I would appreciate, and if you have to be detailed to say, council members, this does not go to the media. This is point A, B, C of what's going on. This is what you can share. This is what you can't share. That's fine. We just need to know.
Thank you, Councilman Banks. Councilman Foote, you're good.
Listen, I really appreciate Attorney Martin coming up here, and I appreciate the restaurants coming up here and informing us on just the the backstory behind the scenes and the challenges they face. It's very impressive what they've gone through, particularly over the past 3 years with all the variety of things. And we're committed to getting the water treatment plants fixed with a permanent solution, not just through the next week, month, or whatever. We need a permanent solution where they're being run on a way that provides clean drinking water, reliable, and that everybody's confident in. So I appreciate all the things you've done and your perseverance through these challenging times.
Councilwoman Lee.
And I just want the businesses to know that we, of course, our top priority as council members is to make sure that, first, we have reliable, safe drinking water, but two, that you stay in Jackson and keep your doors open so that you can continue to thrive and make money and serve the community. So I just want you to know that we are in full support of making sure you have the communication you need and resources.
Thank you. I'd like to, I'm going to make a comment, then I'd like for Councilwoman Lindsay to perhaps talk about some of the things we learned during our last meeting that may be applicable. But my, yes, she had a very good meeting on the water, billing, and infrastructure. And but my comment is this: businesses, critical to our tax base, critical to providing services for our citizens. You guys are just critical, and as long as you're there, fighting the fight, it is an inspiration for all of us, and we know you do it because of love. But we also have schools. Like the colleague mentioned this morning, we had a briefing from the Mississippi Association of Educators, and they have concerns. In addition, we have hospitals, someone mentioned earlier. So, and also households. During the past month, I've been out delivering water to some of the residents, and folks come out in the streets like we're in a third world country. Everyone is impacted, so it's imperative that we get this right, that we make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on. And please, there's a way you can explain this without having to be an engineer or a scientist. So just give us information. That's what we're counting on. The people have trust in us. Every time we turn on that tap, they're trusting in us. Every time they do any type of business development, they're trusting in us. We got to meet them halfway. We got to get this thing right. Excuse me, the lady from the Mississippi Association of Educators, did you have any comments? I'm sorry.
Southern Echo.
Southern Echo. Okay, please.
Thank you. And to the full body, the councilwomen and councilmen, thank you for convening this conversation. I was with you this morning when you were at MAE. My name is Rachel Mays, Executive Director of Southern Echo. We are a nonprofit based here in Jackson, Mississippi, but we are a statewide nonprofit. So we do work all over the state concerning issues. Given the freeze that happened in 2021 and the pandemic, we were at home wondering how we would fulfill our grant obligations by meeting and training individuals around community issues, voting, census, redistricting, education issues, all of those different outreaches. And so we started, unfortunately, with the ice storm to provide water to people that were impacted. Since that time, I would say 2021, we gave out more than 1 million bottles of water to people, particularly in South Jackson, because that was the heavily impacted area. We continue, as of today, to provide water. We will give out water at the Old Sam's parking lot on Raymond Road. We normally give out anywhere between 16 to 20 pallets of water and give each person 2 cases of water. So it is an issue, and
when will you be doing that?
on Friday.
On this coming Friday?
On this coming Friday at 5.
At 5?
Yes, sir.
At Old Sam's
And
parking lot,
it's
Raymond Road.
It's an ordeal, right?
Yes.
And so the last thing that I'll say is that in the last 3 times that we've given out water this year, I said to myself and to other people that were there that we've got to take this to another place, another policy space, bringing people together for resolution. We do community organizing around issues, right? So why is Southern Echo not engaging people to resolve, to talk about, to provide solutions to the issue at hand? So I'm so excited that MAE is at the front of this. I'm so excited that the council is taking up this piece in the way of thinking about solutions. And so Southern Echo is on board to support in any way that we can to continue the conversation and hopefully get to a resolution, whether it's at the federal, state, or local level. How do we resolve this issue for Jacksonians? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think part of the key of what she was mentioning is the same Jeff mentioned. How can you help? How can you help us? What does that help look like in the way of getting different branches of government involved to help resolve this? And we certainly appreciate you all stepping up. Southern Echo, if you don't mind, provide your information with our deputy clerk. Hopefully, we can start formulating that from council discussion on a resolution or some way forward, so we can combine our efforts. And I apologize for I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lee.
I just want to recognize Ben Minifield, who is in the council chambers. He's with Coca-Cola, and they have made significant contributions, donations to the city of Jackson. I think they just did 22 pallets. And I think a drop went to the Metro Center today. So I just want to thank you for all of your efforts, Ben and Coca-Cola.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate that, sir. And in that spirit of it takes a village, we're all in this thing together. Sir, did you have some additional comments?
Speaking of, when does Jackson Public School start back? I know many of the outlying counties and some of
It started today.
Next week.
When do kids go?
Next week.
Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
and see if we can't get another round of relief from World Central Kitchen going.
They definitely need water.
Thank you, sir. We certainly appreciate it. Okay, and again, I apologize for putting Councilwoman Lindsay on the spot, but she had a very productive meeting. The last meeting we had, Water Billing and Infrastructure Ad Hoc Committee, and I'd like for her to maybe recap some of the efforts that the city is doing.
I'm going to keep this really brief because a lot of it was technical information, and thank you, Mr. Chair. What we started the meeting off on was talking about where we are with the water billing remediation program, because even though it may not seem like there's a direct connection, but there is a huge direct connection between the revenue that we're bringing in with our water billing and how we get money through the enterprise fund to repair all the problems that you are dealing with on a way too frequent basis. And so, the new software is installed. It's not without a few glitches, but the glitches are being taken care of. And with that new software program, we now feel like we're moving in the right direction, and there is enough reliable water billing occurring that we are starting water disconnections today on unpaid bills. Now, that makes a lot of us have a stomach ache because we know there are people with glitches, but we also know that it's a chicken or an egg situation. We've got to get the revenue up, and so we can our enterprise fund and our reserves are gone. They're gone, and they've been gone so we've got to address that in a meaningful way. Letters went out for the first time they started going out in July. Today, the disconnects actually occurred. There are remedies for people who may have issues. They can get a water billing plan. They can also, if they don't get satisfaction, they can appeal. And we certainly encourage people with issues to explore all options regarding especially larger water bills. But the meter installation, the new water meters are about 33% finished. That should be finished by the end of all new meters should be in by the end of the year. Again, that directly connects to revenue. And the reorganization of the water billing department, which will now also include solid waste, is also in the works, which matters not to y'all, but it matters a whole lot to us. But anyway, water plant improvements, that's a long conversation, and there was a lot said, but we are making some progress. I think we're a long way from being where we need to be in making improvements to the actual water plants and the water distribution. But there are some measures that are in the works. The council has approved them. The what I call the souped-up pump house that's being put out at O.B. Curtis that would help prevent such trauma in case of another large freeze is under construction. There are other preventative repairs that are also on lines. Colleagues, but it's very technical, but it's in the works. All right. I'm not going to go into the whole reporting of EPA. Yes.
Just can I interject?
Yes, please.
One of the things they mentioned and one of the questions that was asked is that, we are going to continually have upgrades and maintenance at our plants. And so one of the things that was mentioned is, or one of the questions I asked was, is there a contingency plan or can we get notification? And I think the answer was in the affirmative from the Public Works Director. That is, as we continue to upgrade these plants, we need to have some way of communicating to the public that this thing is coming, that perhaps, we might see this. We may see some type of interruption in quality service. And so that you can prevent it, you can prepare for it. So that was one of the things that the Public Works Director pledged to communicate. Again, it's essential that we upgrade these plants. There's no other way around it. But in upgrading them, if it's going to have an impact on the quality of life and public health, then we need to make sure that the public is aware of when these things will be occurring.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was such an important point. And because what he's saying is when we have this interruption, you're going to be back under a boil water notice. And I was really appreciative of Mr. Hartley pushing that point because we can give you notice when these scheduled maintenance times will occur. So thank you, Mr. Hartley, for that. We also talked about sanitary sewer overflows. I know that some restaurants have certainly had issues with that as well. We still have entirely too many in the city, but we are working toward rebuilding our maintenance teams. We have got several leads on new employees. I had no idea that the closing of the Armstrong plant would mean that we could possibly help build our public works department. So that was very informative. But again, that's an issue that's not going to be fixed overnight. We talked just a little bit about financial reporting and where we are, and as we all wanted to know, not what we can't do, but what can we do? How much do we have in reserve so we can continue to invest in these water plants, find solutions in the water sewer system so that we don't have these disruptions for our citizens? We will get a full briefing on that starting Monday when we start Mr. Banks' finance chair, when we start our budget hearings this coming Monday. But we know that we do have some pots of money available, and we will get more information on that starting next week. That meeting's at 9 o'clock Monday when we start. And anyway, the schedule, I'm hoping the schedule, will it get on the website, Ms. Jordan?
Shanikia Jordan, Clerk of Council, it will, and the meetings will be noticed.
And they will, okay, thank you. But that's just a very quick overview of a 2-hour meeting.
I certainly appreciate you, Councilwoman Lindsay, for presenting that vital information. Councilwoman Lee.
Attorney Martin, I am looking at a sheet of paper that was distributed by the City of Jackson regarding our drinking water that was distributed August the 1st. And it says, of course, we were told to take corrective action. We failed to take the action by the agreed upon deadline. And then it says, what should I do? And then it says, there is nothing you need to do. You do not need to boil your water or take other corrective actions. So this is, I just need to know what is going out to our constituents and what do they need to be doing? Are we sending
Is that
out?
the notice based on the fire, the repair to the fire? Is that the same one that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, it's just misleading.
It's unrelated to, it's a required notice that we have to issue, but it is unrelated to the current boil water notice.
How
It's
would our
related
constituents
to.
know that? Because it says regarding your drinking water at the top. And I just want to make sure that we are sending out accurate information to our constituents so they know. If someone were to read this, they would think they no longer have to boil their water. And we can't have our constituents drinking this water.
Councilman Banks.
Yeah, I mean, in lieu of this, and look, let me just say this. I understand political talking points. I get it. But, and I pointed out one, it's like we talked about earlier, currently all repairs have been completed, and I understand that is specific. But the timing of MDEQ sending out a necessary boil water notice that the city may or the administration may or may not agree with, this goes out.
You mean the Department of Health?
Yes, Department of Health, I'm sorry.
So the difference is that notice is required by the Department of Health.
I get it, but it went out at the same exact time. So when my constituents or when our constituents read, there is nothing you need to do. You do not need to boil your water or take other corrective action plan. Then, however, if you have specific health concerns, consult your doctor. That deals with, and one of the things that came up today is trust.
Trust. Yes.
It's one of the things that came up today with our educators. Trust. Forget my people looking for anybody. Trust. People need to trust that we are going to give them accurate information. And,
What I would offer is that's a form. It was required to be issued. The Department of Health does not review those forms before we issue them. I don't disagree that form should have been revised before it was issued, but the timing was unrelated to the boil water notice. It was based on the Department of Health when they told us to issue that notice. So that's when they told us to issue that notice. Should it have been revised before it was issued? Yes. But it is a form notice that we're required to issue by the Department of Health.
let me ask you a question. Did your office see this before it went out?
I did not see it before it went out. I do not know for sure if Terry Williamson saw it before it went out or not, to be honest with you. I know that there are times that they go out without his review, but I don't know for certain if he reviewed that or not before it was issued.
August 1st.
I'll say this, whoever wrote this and okayed the distribution of it gets an F-.
Yeah, Councilman Banks.
So, solutions. One of the things that can help. I don't know how extensive the restaurant network can go nationally. I can tell you one of the things that a lot of us have been pushing, that my caucus is pushing on the national level, National Black Caucus of local elected officials, is that as infrastructure appropriations, specifically around water and clean water, goes out, that the ask be that it goes directly to our municipalities instead of it going to the state and getting hung up there. Mayor of Nashville, Mayor of Mesa, up San Antonio. It's a good team, and so I don't know how extensive. If the restaurant community on a national level can help with that, and say we want to see this funding that deals with the Safe Drinking Water Act and all these others. We want to see this funding going directly to our municipalities, so it doesn't get hung up, in the state, and in that process, or going to CMPDD, and then we have to go through a lot of that work. One of the things that was beneficial for ARPA, it came straight to the city, and I think that that's beneficial. So Southern Echo, all of these organizations, that is a collaborative that I think can happen. That will help us out tremendously, because what we need is resources. But if it don't directly come to us, yeah. All right.
Councilwoman Lindsay.
Yeah, just one quick, I appreciate my colleagues bringing up this notice. I did not get one, but apparently a lot of my constituents did, because I've had a lot of emails and phone calls today at my office, And it has created a tremendous amount of confusion. And is there any possible way that we could release some statement to the media clarifying this? Thank you.
I can communicate with the administration about issuing a statement.
That would be really helpful. Thank you.
And I thank you. I thank my colleagues for your comments. And in closing, I guess that's one of the things that we were trying to emphasize here, and that's that need for public communication and accuracy and just trust. So next meeting, we'll probably schedule another meeting within the next few weeks. During that meeting, we will finalize some of the setup for the ad hoc committee. We'll also be reaching out to other stakeholders and finding their concerns. But one of the things we have to do here is we have to be ready for disasters. It's not a matter of if they're going to come. It's a matter of when. Water crisis, drinking water crisis, is a disaster that we need to prepare for. And so I appreciate everyone for attending. I appreciate my colleagues for their comments. And with that said, this meeting is adjourned.